How's it going, everybody? Today is Saturday, January the 16th of 2016. I have some great news. This morning I took my CCNP troubleshooting exam, so I'm now officially a CCNP in routing and switching. I'm very happy about that. So today we're gonna be talking a little bit about SNMP, or Simple Network Management Protocol. And let me actually bring this up. This is my Google Drive. This is the way that I keep track of all the notes that I've been taking during my studies. So like if we go over to the CCNP folder, I got my teacher route and switch folder. So as you can see, I I try to keep a document for each major topic or each major chapter of the books. So like if we go to this one and then scroll down, here's the SNMP section. So SNMP, or Simple Network Management Protocol, is basically a monitoring protocol. It uses UDP ports 161 and 162, and yeah, here. So basically, what you're gonna end up having is, say this is your network equipment. So you got a router, a switch, firewall maybe, and they're all gonna be aiming to your NMS, or network management station. And for this lab that we're gonna set up today, I'll be using PRTG, and you can download it from their website, and they'll give you a trial license. The trial license, you'll be able to run as many sensors as you want, and then when it's gone, you'll be able to keep running it with as many as 100 sensors, I believe. Okay, so there's that. So SNMP. SNMP comes in three flavors: version 1, 2, and 3. First couple versions, the first one and the second one, um, the they're not being used anymore, at least that I know. And the reason for that is that they lack security. The Let me see. Actually, let me just break this down first. Um, SNMP. So these are the two major concepts that you gotta know. You got your NMS, or the network management stations, and you got the agents. The agents will be your network equipment. So your router, your switch, your firewall. So there's that. Um, Sorry about that. Another thing that you gotta keep in mind um, is actually these two concepts, MIB and OID. So the MIB, or the Management Information Base, you could picture this as, say you are a manufacturer, right? And you're making this router. So the Management Information Base will be a list in which you'll be picturing all your OIDs, or your object identifiers. And the object identifiers is the information that the NMS will be able to pull out of you. So if you're a router, you can imagine your OIDs will be your interfaces, and within the interfaces you would have maybe the bandwidth, the status, the jitter information. So basically that's how this breaks down. I actually can't imagine another easier way to explain this to you. Um, so let's see. Version 3 is the one that we're gonna be setting up today, and version 3 incorporates a new way of authentication between the agent and the NMS. Version 3, we get to use authentication mechanism as well as encryption mechanisms. So let me this traffic right here, the traffic between the agents and the NMS, is gonna be encrypted. So that's one of the big things about version 3. And if we look at this table right here, um, I grabbed this table from one of the CCNP study guides or the books. And as you can see, SNMP version 1 and 2, you only get to define a community string, and when you're configuring specifically the SNMP, you get to type in a community string and then you replicate it to your NMS. That's for the version 1 and 2. Now for version 3, you get to have usernames, each with a password or authentication password, and then you also get to encrypt the communication as we just said. So version 3 also incorporates the concept of views. So a view, basically, a view would define which of the OIDs a specific user would be able to read or write. So there's that. Let's see what else do we have here. Traps and informs. And our equipment will be able to send an unsolicited information to the NMS in two different ways: a trap or an inform. So you can see the trap is sent without any acknowledgement from the NMS, and an inform requires an acknowledgement. So there's that. And let me just pull up my. Okay. So this is my UNL, and this is where I'm gonna be putting up the um, Juniper router. So edit this lab, and we're gonna add a node. It's gonna be my Juniper VMX. I'm just gonna give it 4 interfaces. I don't need that many. And a network. So pnet 0 is my, and let me just show you real quick. So in my UNL virtual machine, I have the network adapter 1. It's attached to my vSwitch 2, I believe, and it's within the port group called routers. So actually, this network adapter 1 is the one that corresponds to the pnet 0. So if we go over to this, you can see my UNL is within the router support group. So, and I'm gonna create a network, and I'm gonna name it VMX to pnet 0 and add. Oops, actually, the type, you gotta bind it to the pnet 0. Okay. So click on interfaces. I believe it's this one. Yes. Alright. So basically what I'm just doing here is I'm giving the Juniper router a way to get out of the network, or to get out to this virtual switch right here, which at the same time I have it bridged to my physical network card. So open this lab, and we're gonna start all the nodes. And I'm just gonna give this some time to boot up. And while the Juniper router is booting, let me just show you how this topology will logically look like. Let me pull up a paint again. And so basically, this is gonna be our Juniper router, and as you know, it's attached to my virtual switch, and the virtual switch has an uplink to my Cisco 2821 router. Usually there's a switch in between. So these two network devices are gonna be in the same network. It's gonna be 192.168 at 10.0. Okay, and our NMS or the PRTG is gonna be um, in the same subnet. It's gonna be 192.168.10.101, I believe. So that's how this is gonna look like. Alright, so now the VMX is up and running. We're gonna log into it, and the default login is root and no password. Okay, and as you can see, I'm running Juno OS 14.1, and so let's just quickly give this interface right here 0/0/0 an IP so I can SSH to it, and CLI edit. And actually, let's first we gotta give the root user an authentication password, and it's gonna be root authentication. It's gonna be a plain text. Hit enter. It's gonna be ASD123. So that's good. So now let's go to the interface, and this is the family um, IPv4, and the address is gonna be 192.168.10.111/24. Okay, and enable the let's enable the root authentication through SSH system, and that's services SSH and root login. Oh, right, allow. Okay, and let's commit to that. Okay, so now I'm gonna close this up and just SSH to it. Okay, so I have my 2821 router right here, and this is gonna be the VMX-1. So let's make these two guys let's create a neighbor an OSPF neighborship between them two. So edit and set protocols OSPF mm, interface, no, area 0.00 interface, and that's and commit, and on the Cisco one it's gonna be IP router OSPF 1, router OSPF 1, and network 192.168.10.0.0.255. That's the wildcard mask, and it's gonna be area 0. And also let's advertise my static route outside to the internet, and let's default information originate. Okay, and I don't see the OSPF adjacency coming up. I'm not sure if I have my, oh, there it is. So do show OSPF neighbors, show IP OSPF neighbors, and there it is. And here we can do show route, or show route, and there's our um, static route out to the internet. Let's try and ping. Okay, so that looks good. Oops. Alright, so let's just go ahead and configure the SNMP, and let's do it first on the Cisco router because it's way simpler. Um, so go to the configuration, configure terminal, and then SNMP server, and we're gonna create the user. It's gonna be Penny, and then group to which the user belongs. Let's say group 1, and here we get to choose the SNMP version we're gonna use for this user. So it's gonna be version 3, and authentication I'll be using SHA, and the password I'm gonna use ASD123, and this is for the encryption. I'll be using AES and 128, and again, so that's for the user. Now let's go ahead and create the view, and I'm gonna call it all access, the family name. So I'm gonna say ISO, and ISO, if you remember when we were talking about the not that one, this right here, the MIB and the OID. So ISO is gonna be like the top of the tree. So if you have access to ISO, will be up here. So if you have access to ISO, you have access to all the other OIDs that fall beneath the ISO. So it's like the top of the tree. And we're gonna say ISO and include it. Okay, and let's go ahead and configure the group, and we said it was group 1, and it's gonna be version 3, private, and read all access. So that's all there is in when it comes to Cisco. um, let's jump over to the Juniper, and so let's start up by going to edit, and then it's gonna be SNMP name. We're gonna set a name. Let's call it June VMX, and location is in my home lab. This is the contact information. Okay, so let's go to version 3, and the USM is where we're gonna be creating the user, and it's gonna be in the local engine. I'm gonna call it the same thing, Penny. I used on the previous one, I used actually, let's go for the authentication first, and it was SHA authentication password, and it was ASD123. Okay, it's not within range. Oh, okay, so ASD123456, SNMP version 3, and local engine user Penny. And now for the privacy, we're gonna say privacy AES128 privacy password, and let's say the same thing, 123456. Okay, so now for the version 3, for the view, security to group, and then security model, and it's gonna be USM because we're gonna base it on the user that we just created. And security name, I'm just gonna call it Penny, and the group was view all, or actually, yes, we're gonna say view all. So let's go ahead and set SNMP version 3, and for that group, view all. Oops, view all. Okay. Basically, what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna bind the access groups to the view, and we're gonna set them as read and notify. So view all, default, contact prefix, security model, and this USM, security level is privacy, and read view, view all. Now the same thing for the notify view. So there's that. And now for the MIB, we're gonna set SNMP view, the view all that we just created, and OID. If you see here, it says OID, and we're gonna say .1. So .1 will be the equivalent of the ISO that we created on the Cisco router, and include and commit to this. Alright, so now that we have both devices configured for SNMP, let's go over to the PRTG, and this is the landing page or the home page. Um, so setting up PRTG is very straightforward. You just download it and install it, and it's gonna launch you to this home page. So if you go on the devices, and as you can see, I have some devices already installed on it. I have my Cisco switch and my access point. So basically, you go to the let's see, devices, and then add a device. So we're gonna select I want it on the network infrastructure. Click continue, and let's do the VMX first. The IP address is gonna be 192.168.10.111. Now the credentials, we're gonna specify the ones that we give it to the router under SNMP credentials. So it was version 3. We were using SHA, Penny, and the password was ASD 123456. AES for the encryption, and the key ASD 456. So click continue, and that's gonna add the device right here. If you click on it and then add sensor, so the sensors is basically what you're able to read from the device. And if you see here, you have a bunch of sensors. For now, let's go click here on bandwidth traffic, add this one. If you scroll down here and look for the interface that we're using, it's the 0/0/0, and continue. So we're gonna add that one, continue. And you could also click on recommend now, and it's gonna try and give you some recommended sensors. Just for now, we're gonna leave that running and go and add the Cisco one. So also under network infrastructure, it's Cisco 2821, just to give it a name. The IP, and credentials, it was version 3. It was SHA 123, AES ASD 123. and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna add some sensors, and it's gonna be some bandwidth through the interfaces. Authentication, at least 8 characters. Okay. Alright, so let's go over to the 2021 configuration, and let's see, instead of ASD123, we're gonna say 456. Okay, right here, 456, and let's try one more time. Oh, there it is. Alright, so we have the interfaces on my router. This is the virtual one that I use for my VPN, and let's see, I'm gonna add this one. This is the one connecting my switch, and I don't see the other ones. Alright, for now let's just continue, and let's take a look at the Juniper. So here's our interface, and if you see the traffic, it's gonna be in kilobits per second. We can change that if we want to. Let me show you real quick. Go under settings, I believe, and not there. Devices and settings, and down here you should be able to change your the units. I'm just gonna leave it on kilobits per second, and let's just test this out real quick. um, if you see right now, I'm not getting any traffic, just some bare 4 kilobits per second, 0 kilobits per second. So we're gonna ping this interface right here. So ping, and it's gonna be, oops, repeat. We're gonna repeat it 1,000 times or 100 times, and it's gonna be 15,000. Timeout 8 seconds. Okay, so we should see some traffic going across this interface now. Oops, I think it didn't give it enough time. Um, let's try again. 1,000 times. And if you see, we're getting some heavy traffic here. 21,000 kilobits per second. We also had 10,000, 10,000. So that's basically how you would monitor your network equipment through SNMP. What else is here? So like if you wanna create a ticket for when this interface goes above some certain threshold, you could go under the sensor and then create a notification. So it's gonna be a speed trigger, and when traffic total is above, say, I don't know, 8,000 or 80,000 kilobits per second, send a notification to your email or whatever, or just to the PRTG monitor. Alright, so that's basically what I wanted to show you for now. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.